Okay, Dan from bodybuilderinthailand.com. The video today is oral steroids versus injectable anabolic steroids. What they do for me and my experiences with them. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of this is advice and none of this promotes the use of any of the substances discussed. Do not attempt to do anything discussed in this video, and this is not medical or legal advice. So injectable steroids and oral anabolic steroids have distinct advantages and disadvantages to them. I'm going to start out talking about injectable, okay? So with anybody that gets in, like, you know, that starts using steroids, using injectable is basically essential because it just it ups the effectiveness a lot. When you take an injectable, it stays in your system much longer. Oral steroids, they peak in your system a few hours after you take them, and then they're out of your system, you know, by usually like 12 hours later or something. But for example, if you took an injection of testosterone enanthate, that won't peak in your system until about 3 days after you take that injection, and then it'll be at its peak level, and that will stay in your system for about 3 weeks total before your body kind of metabolizes it. And you know, metabolism is how your body destroys it, you know. So it'll be in your system effective, you know, a single dosage of testosterone enanthate for about 3 weeks. And that's one of the reasons why injectables are so effective, is because they stay in your system for a long time, and you get those blood levels that are like, it's sort of like your baseline. And they're there all the time, exerting their anabolic and androgenic effects, rather than just being there for, you know, parts of the day or spiking up and spiking low different parts of the day. It's just like a smooth baseline going across. So that's an advantage to it. Another advantage to injectable steroids is that a lot of them are pretty low on side effects. Like if you take something like testosterone, I mean, you can take 1,000 milligrams of testosterone a week without really having much side effects, other than I can, without having, I don't know about everyone else, but for me, I don't really get much side effects other than like estrogen conversion from taking testosterone up to like 1,000 milligrams a week. Which, you know, if I tried to do that with an oral steroid, I would be sick. I would be sick because they sap my energy, and I'll talk about that more as we get into the video. But injectable steroids, they're easier on the system because they don't have to pass through your liver when they go through your digestive system. And so you just inject them. They keep the high blood levels. They're like lower side effects usually. If I had a choice where injectable steroids had all of the qualities that oral steroids had, I would absolutely prefer to inject all of my steroids and not take any oral steroids. But oral steroids have distinct advantages to injectables. So the injectable steroids that are available are testosterone, decadurabolin, trenbolone, equipoise, primobolan, masteron, and you know, I might be missing a couple there, but those are the general ones that people are using. And I mean, there's a lot of good things about them and then a lot of bad things about them. Trenbolone, everybody knows that has a lot of side effects, right? So trenbolone is really strong, and it packs a really intense anabolic power, but it's really strong. It has a lot of side effects. Watch my trenbolone effects video if you want to know about the side effects from that. One being prolactin and your sex drive getting fucked up. So that's one about trenbolone. Okay, Deca, same thing. A lot of people complain about Trendic or Decadic. That's when you can't get an erection because you're taking Tren or you're taking decadurabolin. Then you have equipoise. I don't know, I've never used it. You have primobolan. I haven't used that one either, but I mean, it obviously has good reviews, but it's very, very expensive. So primobolan doesn't really have any side effects as far as I have heard, but you know, it's very expensive to run it, and like, you know, 4 times the price of testosterone to run at a lower dosage. You know, it's like 8 times for like milligram per milligram to testosterone. Primobolan costs like 8 times as much for 100 milligrams as testosterone does. So it's very cost ineffective. And then you have stuff like Masteron. Masteron is good. I like to use Masteron a lot, actually. I get good strength from it. I don't get any fullness from it, but I get decent strength from it, and it gives a nice, like, athletic look where I don't get like blown up big round muscles. Don't get that from it, but do get a nice, like, thinning of the skin. So there's Masteron. And yeah, so you see that there's not really a lot of variation between the injectables. So I mean, I do think Masteron is good, and I think testosterone and Masteron is a really good cycle. But I also am not gonna pull the blinders over the fact that Masteron just really isn't that strong. It's just not that strong. And then testosterone, if you run really high testosterone, when I said there's no side effects, there are some side effects, you know, like estrogen, but there's also like water retention. Water retention is really shitty, like especially with me, like my face blows up like a water balloon when I run high testosterone, which is pretty fucking ridiculous. but it's, you know, I don't want to run a lot of testosterone because it just feels heavy on the body. It feels heavy. It's kind of like the same way that Trenbolone feels. If you run Trenbolone at all, it feels really heavy on the body. You feel like you're really on something. If you run high testosterone, it's the same way. Around like 750 to 1,000 milligrams a week of testosterone, it feels like real heavy, like you're on something, you know, and you're kind of having to like lift this weight, like mentally or physically. Like it's, I guess it's stressful, I guess you could say. So on to the orals. The orals there's a really wide variety of orals, and you know what? On average, orals are pretty damn powerful. On average, Trenbolone is really, really strong, okay? And so it's kind of like the exception versus with injections that are like really strong. Testosterone at a high dose, really strong, and Trenbolone at a high dose, really strong. But the other ones are like, for the most part, kind of like weaker than orals. So like, for say example, I, you know, took Dianabol. It's like, boom, you know, you just blow the fuck up, like, because it loads your muscles with a bunch of water and carbohydrate fuel. And so that, you know, is very, very strong, and it's gonna have, you know, 50 milligrams per day, which is 350 milligrams per week of Dianabol, is going to have an enormous effect, anabolic effect on your physique. Enormous. That, you know, is going to be really hard for really any injectables really to even compare to that. I mean, maybe 1,000 milligrams of testosterone would compare to that. Maybe 350 milligrams, the same dosage of Trenbolone, would compare to that. Maybe. But it's like, I mean, just that one right there, Dianabol, at the same dosage as Trenbolone, it pretty much is as strong if you have legit stuff, milligram per milligram. Of course, it does give bloat, but if you can see though, it's like Dianabol, very effective. I mean, Anadrol, again, you take that shit and it's like you're stronger, you're bigger, you know, you look like 5 pounds more muscle all of a sudden. It's not like these injectables where you get these like slow, steady gains happening over time. The orals really are like, they fucking hit, and it's like bam, and you get these, you know, massive effects within days of starting taking them. Cosmetic effects that, you know, they go away if you don't stay on the oral for a long time and, you know, make those cosmetic effects into real permanent muscle tissue. But that's what orals do. They're very strong. I mean, same thing with Winstrol, you know. If you take 50 milligrams of Winstrol every other day, hell yeah, it's way stronger than 100 No, if you take 50 milligrams of Winstrol orally every day, it's way stronger than Masteron at 100 milligrams every other day. So, 350 milligrams of Winstrol versus 350 milligrams of Masteron per week, each per week, the Winstrol is going to blow the Masteron out of the water. It's just going to blow it out of the water. It's way stronger. It does everything the Masteron does. The Winstrol does everything the Masteron does, but it does it better. It's stronger. It makes you stronger. It makes you hold less water. It makes you drier. It makes you have more fullness in your muscles. Winstrol actually really pumps your muscles up with carbs. Masteron doesn't. Winstrol makes you dry as fuck. Masteron also makes you very dry. Winstrol makes you extremely strong and have extremely strong pumps. Masteron makes you strong and makes you get good pumps, but it's not as strong as Winstrol. So then we go to other things like, so we have like Anadrol, Winstrol, you have Anavar. Let's look at like Anavar and Primobolan. Like Primobolan is so expensive to run, right? But Anavar, it's expensive, but it's not anywhere close to as expensive as Primobolan. Like, it's about like half the price. And if you run an equal dosage of, I haven't used Primobolan, so I can't say, but I do know that Anavar is a strong hormone when it's used at a high dosage. If you're using, 60 milligrams of Anavar a day, I know that it's a big punch. And you never hear people getting on Primobolan and saying like, oh my God, like I'm immediately so much stronger and like my muscles have this like great look to them. It's always a slow, steady effect that happens over time of quality muscle. Whereas with Anavar, that shit hits within a week. You've made progress, at least cosmetically. So those are some of the advantages of why oral steroids they pack more punch in general than injectables, with Trenbolone really being the exception to that. Trenbolone does pack the quick punch like that. It's very similarly to orals. But orals generally, they really have that quick, like, pass, like those effects come on, and it's startling, and it's impressive. So, there's that. Okay, drawbacks of orals, that they have liver toxicity. I haven't really had like a whole lot of liver toxicity like with me. I talk to you guys about how if you want to maintain gains from using orals and not piss them out, because orals cause cosmetic effects, within, like I said, within days of taking them, your muscles are bigger, rounder, fuller. And that's because of the orals causing this quick effect where the water and the carbohydrates that you intake are being pushed into your muscles and making those muscles be bigger and rounder and fuller, right? And so those cosmetic effects go away after you stop taking the orals. But if you take them from a longer amount of time, then you can, still, build, a considerable amount of muscle tissue on them. So for me, I usually don't use orals I've used Winstrol several times for like 8 weeks at a time. I think even like 10 weeks at a time before, at like 50 milligrams a day. I didn't really get any side effects. I didn't really get any side effects other than whinny foot, which is where your foot cramps like fuck because you're getting a pump in the arch of your foot from walking around, and whinny gives insane pumps. So there's that, but for the most part, I haven't really had like some problems with toxicity with something like Anavar or Winstrol and running it for longer periods of time myself. I have had some problems with toxicity with Dianabol though. When I've used Dianabol, like 50 milligrams a day, and like after a month, I'll start feeling like kind of toxic. Like, I'll be like sleepy when I'm not supposed to be sleepy. I'll just be more like lethargic and tired. With Anadrol, when I used it, I don't even really have to use Anadrol for long at all. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and with Anadrol, I'll start getting like, I'll just feel sick. I'll feel sick, and I'll feel, very lethargic, tired, wanting to sleep, and I will feel like a foggy head, not a clear mind. So those are really shitty effects of Anadrol. You know, I've used Superdrol, and Superdrol to me is basically the god of hormones. I know a lot of people say Trenbolone is the god of hormones, but Superdrol is much stronger than Trenbolone. Much stronger than Trenbolone. Like 20 milligrams of Superdrol per day, in my experience, does the same thing as 100 milligrams every other day of Trenbolone acetate. So that's my opinion. I think that Superdrol, if you have legit Superdrol, it just does everything. It just makes you big. Insane pumps, insane fullness and roundness to your muscles, insane cosmetic effect. It makes you drier. It makes you stronger than any other compound. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So that's Superdrol. And I actually didn't get any horrible effects or anything from Superdrol. I didn't get any lethargy actually from it either. What I did get was insane hypoglycemia, because the Superdrol, every time I'd eat, any sugar that would be in my body would get pumped into my muscles, and that's a big contributor to that extreme fullness. Sugar would get pumped into my muscles, and then wouldn't have any more sugar in my blood, and I'd just be sitting there watching TV or whatever, and all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, like I'm desperate for food. I'd have low blood sugar, and I'd get that feeling where you've been fasting for a while, and you feel like, oh fuck, I'm starving. So that was no fun. But as you see, there's drawbacks, and if I could, the toxicity with the orals, that's a drawback. But the thing with the orals is that a lot of times, they're stronger. They pack a bigger punch in the injectables, and they really give some amazing effects. And that's why a lot of people have always stacked injectables with orals, taking them together, because that's how you get the best effects, is taking the orals and the injectables at the same time, so you get the benefits of both. And that's, I'm not using any orals right now, but I do think that the best effects come from combining an injectable with an oral. But orals, the toxicity, the lethargy and shit that comes with them is very, very shitty. And yeah, it's shit. And so I don't like that. I don't like not having any energy, because then I'm like if I took like Anadrol or something and didn't have any energy, or took oral like Anabolic for too long and didn't have any energy, getting all lethargic, it's like, well, what the fuck is the point of taking this if I don't even feel like training or whatever, It's stupid. So it's a complicated subject. But orals versus injectables, if all orals could be injected and have no toxicity, which orals can be injected, but they still will have toxicity because of their structure. The chemical structure is different, and it contains a molecule that the liver has to break down, and so it will be toxic no matter if you inject it or take it orally, because you can drink injectable Winstrol, and it has the same effects as injecting it, basically. So yeah, they have positives and minuses. If you could inject them all and not have them be toxic, that would be the ideal situation. But unfortunately, because of the chemical structures of them, that will never happen. Having the chemical structures that makes them orally active makes them more strong than if they did not have those chemical structures that were orally active. For example, equipoise is the same molecule as D-bol, except for the 17 alpha alkylation, which is what makes it orally available on the chemical. And we all know that D-bol is way stronger than equipoise, even though I haven't used equipoise, and I'm going out on a limb there, but from what I've heard from very reliable sources, and experience myself, we all know that D-bol is a stronger hormone, and because of that, it's really only thing that made that happen is the 17 alpha alkylation. So the making it orally available is what makes it so strong, or at least is a portion of that. So what I think running orals at lower doses for longer periods of times is the way to do it, to avoid toxicity, and at the same time get the effects from them that aren't just cosmetic benefits, but actually get those real more lasting benefits of muscle quality and muscle gain. I think injectables are the base of any good cycle. They're the basic arsenal of any steroid user, I think, who you know, knows what they're doing, and they both have drawbacks and positives. The best way to do it is to combine them both for the best effects, but in my opinion, I prefer to use injectables for the most part and use orals sometimes. So that's orals versus injectables. This is Dan from bodybuilderinthailand.com. To learn more about the truth in bodybuilding, visit bodybuilderinthailand.com.